Central to every marketer's strategy, future-proofing your brand with first-party data and privacy-centric marketing. As third-party cookies disappear, it's time for brands to take ownership of their data and their relationship. Please welcome Snigdha Bhatt, Digital Marketing Lead, PepsiCo Foods and Beverages, Shitiz Dogra, Marketing Leader, Meeta Gupta, Director, Client Services, The Trade Desk. Please give it up for our next discussion, everyone. I would request Meeta to please take the lead in the conversation, and let's hear how these leaders are crafting trust-first experiences with precision.
All right. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you, Snigdha and Shitiz, for joining me today for this conversation. I'm really excited to discuss a topic which is not just timely, but it is also very critical as the brands are kind of navigating, how they ride onto this first-party data, audience-first approach, and make our digital marketing more effective, right? So let's straight dive into it. And would like to begin with you, Snigdha. Right? We know we have seen the change that is now happening where marketers are moving more towards audience-first approach rather than, individual channel approach or a siloed approach, right? While this transition is happening now, but you literally have led that change in digital marketing. So would love to hear your journey. How did you go about audience-first approach? Why do you think it's important for a marketer today?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Meeta. I would say we've tried traveling some road with that. I don't know if we are exactly there or not, but definitely tried to bridge some gaps possible. So for CPG as a category, if you actually see mental availability and physical availability are the two things which really drive consumption. And as media, you can primarily drive mental availability only. Consumers are shifting away from ads, and it's no-brainer. We see that you give an option for a skippable ad, the person skips it. You actually do a non-skippable ad, and the person doesn't have an option but to view it, right? So, and hence your VTRs are great when it's a non-skip asset. For us, it's always been interesting to understand that what is driving a consumer to buy a packet of Lay's. Like, is that a game which a person is watching when he wants to buy a packet of Lay's? Or is it a game which the person is playing when he wants to buy a bottle of Sting? So we have identified those signals for ourselves, and we have tried to really map those signals to certain cohorts, to certain genres, and see where it is driving precision for us. The clear indicators of how these precision marketing or audience-first approaches are working is you have your CTRs going up, you have your engagement rates going up, you have your bounce rates going down. And I think that's something which has been working for us, and that has really made us move away from a platform-based buying to an audience-based buying. And TTD, of course, has been a very crucial player in that, because with you guys, we have been able to bridge that gap in terms of not going after a particular platform, but really going after that particular cohort of audiences.
Absolutely. I think breaking the silos, not going just direct buys, but going after the audience kind of makes it more relevance for a brand. And with that, Shitij, there's a lot of talk about first-party data. But how can a marketer begin that journey of audience first, and specifically in case of when they don't have first-party data?
Right. So I'll try to address that question from two journeys that I've had. One as a startup co-founder and one as someone who's working in digital space. I think gaining the critical mass is very important for newer businesses on the block. And typically we rely on, the behemoths, where, audiences based on affinity signals and basis, your demographic based data, you try to attract them and then try to retain them. You obviously will go after metas of the world, or probably go out to channels that help us build top of the funnel, right? Like for example, during my startup days when we were in health food space, we would try to go after tried and tested channels. That time it was a channel first approach, right? Because we didn't have any audience. We were trying to build that. So we did that extensively across various channels, tried to gain the critical mass, and then use that base as a magnet for lookalike audience. First we did that. Then the second route that we took was probably, kind of a piggybacking on similar categories or audiences. Like we were in food, we would piggyback on consumer-led brands and try to do a collaborations with them and attract those audiences, right? So those were the two levers that we tried to probably, cash upon to acquire, the first set of users or first set of believers that we got them. So that was what we had observed. And like, I come from travel sector. In travel, there are, of course, there are defined publishers, there are defined channels, but still finding the right audience, needs a lot of precision and a lot of testing. So, of course, it's as an industry, it is very search heavy, but now you see that YouTube is the second biggest search, place right now. If you see, the volumes for the term flight booking, that would be running in millions, right? That becomes the bedrock of acquiring an affinity-based audience. Then obviously you go after their lives like unguided missiles and try to do a video reach campaign or do a non-skippable ad and then get them in the fold. So these are some of the, kind of basic stuff that most of the brands do to get their first set of believers. And of course, as you, increase your first party data, you can use them as a magnet to go to other, apography kind of a thing. And that's how basically we have observed.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one way of kind of, start building your first party data. And, when we look at the walled gardens, they definitely, provide you the scale of the cohorts, that you just spoke about, Shitij. But when we talk about how do we own that data, because these are still, those blurry lines in terms of privacy, in terms of visibility to that ownership of the data. These days, brands are leveraging more of open internet where they start building and owning their first party data. And again, back to you, Snigdha, I think you guys have aced that whole journey of not only building, but owning and enriching your first party data. How do you see, you've been leveraging it and what benefit it kind of delivered for you?
So one way of owning, of course, is the way you acquire that data from your campaign and whatever. And another important tool is, as Ranjan spoke in the last panel, about CDPs. Right, the perfect mix comes in when you actually have a CDP in place or a DMP in place, along with the data signals coming in from data partners and activation partners like TTD. And how do you really merge all three of them? Because see, getting data is not that difficult. What is difficult for us, or what makes, what would actually cut the rock for us would be, how do we really make this data intelligent? The data can only be made, because it's of no use unless and until I know certain things about this particular consumer. So for example, if I know that this person is a salty consumer, but that's what I know about this consumer. But I have a product which is a sizzling hot product. Unless and until I know that this is a salty consumer, and this consumer is more prone to buy, say, spice-led product, or is into certain cohorts which incline towards trying a new particular flavor, then that actually makes the journey more interesting, because then you can craft your creatives accordingly, then you can craft your messaging accordingly. You can go to a music platform with a sizzling hot communication, with a music-specific node, and make your creatives interesting. So for us, that has been driving this change. And the way we have been able to leverage open internet is, and you guys are aware of it, is because we get these signals, we map it with data partners, we take it back to our CDPs, we take it back to the activation platform, and the respective genres. So you really make those experiences personalized for any consumer. And that's when you actually see the magic happenings, which is data marrying, human insights.
Yeah. And do you think this has helped you scaling your first party data further?
It does, of course, because what happens is when we really target such sorts of cohorts and when we target such sorts of campaigns, then we do not see a lot of breakage coming in terms of consumer opting out from the campaigns, because we are sort of going in with an approach of more personalization, more usefulness to that consumer, so that drop-offs don't happen, and we really get lot more consumer-enriched data as opposed to just capturing it maybe in some sort of a ID or something. Yeah.
I think you spoke about personalization, and that gives me a perfect segue to my next question here. When we say first-party data is the fuel, to your media strategy, and AI is literally the engine which is driving it, right? And we are seeing the brands which are using this powerful combination to, deliver media efficiencies, effectiveness, and personalization at scale as well, right? What are your thoughts on that? How can you leverage a combination of these two?
So, and we were speaking while we were outside. So there are two ways in which we are doing it particularly. And I think AI in marketing is such a vast topic that not everybody has, I think none of us have really been able to crack it, that, this is exactly what AI can do and this is exactly what AI can't do. There are two areas in which we think that we have progressed a bit. One is, again, personalization at scale, because technically it is impossible for a creative agency to really create 400 assets or 500 assets going in for a single campaign. So, for example, if you have, and I'm taking a branding example, if you have 7-Up into food sort of a combo, then that appeal of a biryani versus maybe a podi idli or something like that would be absolutely different. It's impossible for us to really create those assets manually. So we leverage AI when we have to create those personalized assets. The second very, very important use case for us is when we marry the first-party data with AI and we create those signals internally for us, enrich those, target those on platforms, which actually give us a lot of cost efficiencies. So cost, engagement rate, and personalization at scale. So these are the three takeaways which we think that we have been able to address. I think there are multiple more cases, but yeah, this is where we are as of now.
And what do you think, Shitiz? What would be the best way to use this powerful combination?
So I think, as she rightly pointed out, there are two basic routes, for marketers. One is on the creation side, one is on the problem-solving side. So on the creation side, a lot has been said and done. I don't know if you consider Coke as a competition.
Of course.
So they basically, they have, kind of, not that Coke, people are laughing. So basically, they had unveiled their Gen Studio usage at scale in Adobe Summit in Vegas last year. And now it is a case study as well. Imagine, a brand with 300 plus brands across 100 countries, across so many websites. They basically, kind of thrashed the AI, engine massively, and the, personalization at scale. They built that for their own category. And of course, the system is learning. So the creation side is obviously taking care of that, right? That's one part of it. The second part, I think, like you rightly said, AI layer over your existing CDP becomes the magnet for attracting like-minded audiences. So I have seen, like in travel, there are some players who are trying to do that. With their existing first-party data, they have, basically mapped a layer of AI which is giving out very precise segments in terms of the, your typical RFM, right? The recency of this user in terms of the, what could be the monetary impact of this user if a certain kind of campaign is fed to them, right? So that kind of precision is being built. In fact, I think that could be the next wave which is coming up, because it acts as a kind of a hub for your internal signals, right? That, enriches your first party data further. And, the testing is very precise. You can see your, ARPUs going up or going down. You can see whether this is working for you or not. So that's the line of sight for, where we see it going. In terms of AI as a very core part of performance, I think we still need rigorous testing to arrive at a kind of a definite or a finite answer. In my experience, I have not yet seen a very heavy dent that probably AI-led creatives made in the performance space, at least in the travel sector. Of course, it has kind of moved the, the upper funnel metrics, right, and your engagement scores. But in terms of, bringing them, to the consideration stage, I think it's still, there's a long way to go. And probably, we will reach there. Probably the learning curve is kind of steep from here. So that's what I see right now.
Definitely. I think when we talk about AI with first-party data, a lot of focus is on the creative side of it, but definitely when it comes to the merit of delivering the efficiency, bringing in more relevance, to the audience that you're reaching out to, that's where AI's power kind of, comes into the picture when we talk about these two combination. And yeah, I mean, valid thoughts. Like, thank you so much for kind of, sharing those details. And with that, coming to my last question, and of course, again, when we talk about AI, we talk about first-party data, how can we leave the topic of privacy, right? With all the compliances, and at one point in time, it used to be treated as a blocker to kind of, this another ruling in place, it's very restrictive. Do you think that brands are still seeing this as a restriction, or is it more like a catalyst to connect better with your audience?
So honestly, the moment legal team comes into picture, you have to live with restrictions. That's the reality. But, and we are extremely heavy on user privacy, extremely heavy on governance, governed by PepsiCo Global as well as local. We think that it's consumers' right to be exposed to a one-to-one communication or not, and that's a right which is given from a governance perspective to a consumer. Now, if every message which we send to a consumer has to be sent from our end with a mandate saying you can stop and unsubscribe at any given point in time, we do not send any messages to any consumer where we do not have a consent from the consumer. That's like a given. While some may think it as a blocker, honestly, the way we think it as is it's pushing us to really think about the consumer more, push the boundary in terms of thinking what value can I add to this consumer, because he is my loyal customer base. He has been buying my product, and that is why he's there in my first-party data pool. And that really pushes us to think that can I offer something which is simple, which is meaningful, which is experiential for this customer, so that he wants to be in that loyalty program with me, or he wants to listen from our brands more rather than opting out of what we have to offer. We don't really send just creatives or just messages in terms of that this is the promotion or that is the promotion. We really create experiences for people. We create rewards and recognitions for the people, and we really create some sort of a reward program which customer can actually feel that he's getting something to be on the part of that program. So that's how.
Key is to give them a value. There has to be a value exchange.
There has to be a value exchange, because if there is no value exchange, I don't think a consumer really wants to be in that pool. The easiest thing for all of us to do is just send a stop button and say, I don't want to receive any messages.
And we all have done that.
Yeah.
What about you, Shitiz? What do you think? Is it still a blocker, or is it a way to better connect with your audience?
No, I think it is very essential. I think the data protection ecosystem in India is still nascent. I think it's going to be draconian in future, because that's how it should be. There's a reason you see there's so many marketing campaigns happening around privacy and fraud and all of that. And it's only going to get bigger given the scale that we are, in terms of our digital ecosystem. But I think it's an opportunity for brands to be very mindful and be very consumer first. It's probably an opportunity for them to be front runners in there, right? I'll just give an example. In my current role, whenever we're reaching out to we're reaching out to our customers who have given us, solid consent. There are three ways we probably approach the communication messaging to them. Either you entertain them, either you inform them, or you help them, right? The last part is where you get all your evangelists, right, as she rightly pointed out. And I think with that mindset only, you have to build your entire ecosystem of consent first and storing the data and keeping the, the consumer informed. We were talking outside, I gave you the example of Zerodha, right?
Yes.
Mr. Kamath says that we don't send unnecessary emails to our customers. The only transactional, informational emails that will help you stay connected to the brand the way it has been intended for is what makes or breaks a relationship with the brand, right? That intent, I think, has to be there first, and it has to be forward-looking. I think that's how brands need to be, looking forward to that. In terms of the nature of businesses, businesses which are in EU, right? They have to comply to that, right? There's no way out. And I think that probably would be a very good cue for brands to probably be that aspirational, that they start today and not tomorrow.
And thank you so much, Shitiz and Snigdha, for sharing your thoughts, for simplifying, the audience-first approach, simplifying how privacy can help you connect better with your audiences rather than treating it as a blocker. Really thankful for all your valuable inputs.
Thanks, Meeta.
That was an interesting discussion. Thank you to all the speakers, and please remain on stage as we present a token of appreciation.